What's up guys, Stephen Bogren here, Pro Physique. Today, what I want to talk about is how long should you rest in between sets. Alright guys, so what's up? How's everybody doing? I hope that the holidays are still treating everybody well with Christmas coming up here in a little bit. I know there's a lot of parties going on. Diet might not be everybody's main concern for the time being. So I thought that why don't we talk a little bit of training today and sort of give that whole dieting thing a little bit of a break. So this is definitely one of the questions that I get a lot, right? Anytime you're writing up a program, anytime somebody starts working out, anytime somebody just kind of like wants to know, like, how long should I rest in between my sets? And so I think obviously the first thing to talk about is why that's important. So the reason that rest time is important is because if you are doing higher intensity sets, and this is something you'll see with a lot of power lifters, is that you will fail your subsequent sets if you do not have adequate rest time. The reason for this is being that your ATP and CP, or adenosine triphosphate and creatine phosphate, those are your very, very short-term energy systems. Those are what works like that. And so those are what fuels a lot of that anaerobic or very high intensity activity, right? So those need time to replenish. If your body cannot replenish those and keep up with the energy demand, then we don't have enough stores to produce power, right? We have anaerobic glycolysis, which is like carbs where it doesn't use oxygen, right? So it's a little bit different than carbs when we do use oxygen. Here's the main thing though. So when we see the anaerobic glycolysis, or the carbs without oxygen, right? What happens is we get that lactate buildup, which is what everybody thinks lactic acid is. So that only lasts for so long, right? And what we need to be able to do is give our bodies adequate time to rest, to sort of get rid of some of the lactate, change that back to pyruvate, and these are just energy substrates, right? And to rephosphorylate all the ATP and CP in the system. That is why, again, you're gonna see power lifters particularly taking those really long rest intervals, sometimes around 5 minutes in between sets. What that does is it gives their body plenty of time to rephosphorylate, to make sure that their energy systems are back up and ready to go to handle that high demand that is being placed on their systems, right? So this is more important with those heavier loads, 85, 90, 93% of 1 RM, those kinds of things, right? And whereas I'm sure most of you aren't lifting at 93% of 1 RM, at least not very often, those higher loads, they just take more time in between sets so that we can get through the workload. So here's kind of my normal go-to for rest times, right? If you're doing a hypertrophy-based workout, right? So we're probably talking anywhere between 60 to maybe 75% of 1 RM. So we're kind of on that low end of where we know that we have to be at for overload, and sort of getting into that high end or that moderate end of the rep scheme, right? At that point, you're probably going to be okay with anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes of rest, right? Because it just doesn't take as much of a toll on those faster energy systems. Because the intensity is lower, our oxidative phosphorylation, or our fat burning, kind of can contribute a little bit more to that movement. And so it doesn't take our body quite as long to replenish the other ones. Because remember, just like what we talked about the other day, at all times, all energy systems are going, right? Always burning carbs, always burning fats, always burning ATP, CP, always burning protein. So at all times, they're all being used. So for those lower intensities, we can utilize more of the aerobic glycolysis and the fat burning for doing that activity. And what that's going to allow us to do is take those shorter rest times. We no longer need more time to replenish all that stuff, right? All that stuff to do the movement. However, at those higher intensities, Fat burning is going to be doing a lot less, right? So here's how it goes. As intensity climbs, the amount of fat that we can burn goes down, the amount contributed to the activity. And that's just how the body works. So it's not that we're not burning fat, we're just burning less fat relative to the other energy systems for that activity. During the activity, right? After the activity can be a different thing. Different video, different time. So we want to make sure that we're giving our body plenty of rest time to get those energy systems back up and ready to perform the movements. So if you're, say, lifting a 5x3, the weight's going to be relatively heavy, right? It's probably going to be at least 85%, depending on where you're at, you know? So we'll get that as like a very bottom end. It should be a little bit higher, but anyways. So we're going to need anywhere from probably 3 to 5 minutes in between sets to make sure that our body is ready to continue doing that work. Otherwise, what we tend to see is the first set goes really good, then the second set's pretty tough. You know, maybe it's like that's rep shy failure, or it might be right there at that failure line. And then the third set, maybe we don't even get that third rep, right? Then we have to lower the weight to do the fourth and the fifth set. And maybe on the fourth set, you know, we hit that 9, so we have to lower the weight again and then do the fifth set, right? So we kind of lose a little bit of volume, and we definitely don't hit that intensity threshold the same, right? Because getting stronger has a lot to do with the neuromuscular adaptations, right? How your body recruits those muscle fibers for that movement, how efficient it is at that. So not only the efficiency of you in the movement, so minimizing the travel of the bar, which is simple physics, but how your body recruits those muscle fibers. Does it recruit the bigger fibers, the smaller fibers, all the fibers, right? It's just like if somebody throws a box at you and you don't know what's in it, you might catch it and then like have this really big reaction, right? And then realize, oh, it's really light, I don't have to. That's kind of the idea of neuromuscular recruitment, right? We don't always have to use all the muscles, but when we're trying to be strong, we do. So that's what you really want to pay attention to, is when you're looking at rest times, how long should I be resting for each set or in between each set? It's always going to depend on the intensity of the exercise. Now remember, intensity means what percentage of your 1 rep max you're lifting for our purposes, right? Intensity for sprints would be what percentage of your VO2 max, right? How fucking hard are you going? So that's what we want to keep in mind when we're talking about rest times and weightlifting, guys. Main reasons that you're going to want to do this is 1, we're hitting our volume. 2, we're getting our intensity in. And 3, we're not feeling under the bar and risking injury. That third one is probably going to be the most important one, because these 2 we can always make up for in the next block. We can always reprogram. We can always deal with those 2 moderators. The injury one's the big one. So remember, injury prevention should always be your first and foremost concern. If you need to take a little bit more time in between sets, do it. If it's taking too long, talk to whoever's doing your programming or figure something out to where it can sort of moderate with your life. But anyways, guys, that's it for talking about rest time today. We're going to keep it pretty simple. Until next time, guys, this is Stephen Beaugrand, Pro Physique.